Welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use a new technique, new method to solve a quadratic equation. X squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So you don't need to know the quadratic formula to solve this. You don't need to know how to factorize to do this problem, but make sure that x squared has no number multiplied with it. There is no coefficient for x squared. If there is any, then you need to divide by that number to each of the term to get rid of that and get the form x squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so this method is proposed by Dr. Po-Shen Loh from Carnegie Mellon University. So the basic idea behind this method is x squared plus bx plus c can be written as x minus b over 2 plus d, and then x minus b over 2 minus d, the product of two factors. And from these, the roots are x equals to negative b half plus d and x equals to negative b half minus d. But how do I find out d? What is d? D is a number that we need to find. How? We need to do negative b half plus d, the product of those two values, equals to c. When you equate the product of those two numbers, those two roots equals to c, then you will be able to get the value of d, okay, where b and c will be known. Let us do some examples. The first example is solve x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals to 0. So following this method, let's find out b and c. What is b? b is negative 5. What is c? c is 6, right? So with this information, the roots are negative b over 2 plus d and then negative b over 2 minus d. Okay, let's plug in the value of b. b is negative 5. So negative 5 is positive 5. So this is 5 half plus d and then 5 half minus the d. These are the roots x equals to, right? Now how to find out d? Again, to find out the d, you need to multiply those two roots and then set that equals to c. So to find d, what we do is 5 half plus d times 5 half minus d equals to c. So how do you multiply those? Do you know how to multiply those two? There is a formula in algebra: a plus b times a minus b equals to a squared minus b squared. How do I do that? Basically, you use the FOIL, right? A times a times a is a squared, and then a times negative b is minus ab, and then next is b times a, because we did a times a and a times b. Next is b times a is positive ab, and then b times negative b is minus b squared. So you cancel positive ab and negative ab. What is left is a squared minus b squared. So this is also a formula, meaning if there are two numbers a and b, and then if there is a product of first plus second number times the first number minus second number, then what you can do is you can do the square of the first and then minus square of the second. You don't have to FOIL. You can use that formula directly. So here you have the first number plus the second number and then first number minus the second number. So what is c, by the way? c is 6, right? So let me write down that. So using this formula, what do you get? The square of the first, that is 5 half square, minus square of the second is d square, equals to c is 6, right? So what is that? That is 5 half square is 5 half times 5 half, 25 over 4 minus d square equals to 6. Now our goal is to solve for d, right? So to do that, we need to move this term to the other side and move that to this side, right? How do I do that? Add d square on both sides. Subtract 6 from both sides. What do you get? You basically get You cancel that. 6 minus 6, d square minus d square will be like that. So 25 over 4 minus 6 equals to d square. How do I subtract that? 25 over 4. There is a 4 in the denominator. You see that? But 6 has just 1 in the denominator. So I want to make this 4 in the denominator of this. So what should I do? Divide and multiply by 4. So 6 times 4 is 24 over 4. You see that? So that makes 25 over 4 minus 24 over 4 is equals to d square. So you write down 4. 25 minus 24 is 1 equals to d square. Take the root. What do you get? D equals to 1/2. Right? We will use this into that x value. So the roots are x equals to 5/2 plus 1/2. And the next one is 5/2 minus d is 1/2. What is 5/2 plus 1/2? Is 5/2 plus 1/2 is 6/2, right? 6/2 means 3. And 5/2 minus 1/2 is 4/2, that is 2. So these are the roots. See that? Let us see another example that has a complex root. As usual, let's find out what is the value of b. b is positive 2. c is positive 3, right? So what are the roots by the new method? Is x equals to negative b/2 plus d, negative b/2 minus d, negative b over 2 plus d, negative b over 2 minus d. So what is b? Let's plug in that. Negative 2 over 2 plus d, negative 2 over 2 minus d, negative 1 plus d, negative 1 minus d. So to find d, what we do? You multiply those two. Negative 1 plus d times negative 1 minus d equals to c. c is 3. We use that formula again. You can FOIL it or use the formula again. The first plus second number times first minus second. That is square of the first minus square of the second equals to 3. What is negative 1 squared? That's positive 1, right? Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1 minus d squared equals to 3. Now we want to solve for d. How do I do that? Add d squared. Add d squared. Subtract 3. So what do you get? You cancel out plus and minus, equal quantity, right? 1 minus 3 is negative 2 equals to d square. So what is d? You need to take the square root. When you take the square root, if there is a negative sign, you write I outside, right? So you write I root 2. For that negative sign, you write I outside and then just you remove that negative sign because you write I outside for that and the root 2 is left equals to d. So what are the roots then? After you find out d, you're done, right? So x equals to negative 1 plus d is I root 2 and negative 1 minus I root 2. You can write root 2 times I with root only for 2. Another example that has a number for x squared. So for that, you need to write x squared plus bx plus c form in the third example. This is another example here. Right? So what should I do next? First is divide by 2. So what you get is x squared plus 5/2 x plus 3/2 equals to 0. What are the roots? Negative b/2 plus d, negative b half minus d. So what is b? Let's write down b there. So here b is 5 half, c is 3 half. So if you plug in that, b is 5 half, negative 5 half over 2. This is half of the 5 half. That will make negative 5 over 4 plus d, because b is 5 half. 5 half divided by 2 will be 5/4. Negative 5 over 4 minus d. So to find d, what we do is you multiply those two, right? Negative 5 half plus d times negative 5 half minus d equals to c. What is c? c is 3 half. Now you use that formula again. First number plus the second times first minus the second. So square of the first. Oh, by the way, this is 4, right? 5/4, 5/4. So negative 5/4 square minus d square equals to 3 half. How much is that? Negative 5/4 times negative 5/4. That's what the 5/4 square means. 25 over 16 minus d square equals to 3 half. Using the same technique, you need to move that d square to the other side. Plus d square minus 3 half minus 3 half. That will cancel out. So what do you get? 25 over 16 minus 3 over 2 equals to d square. Now, how do I subtract this? It has 2 in the denominator. It has 16 in the denominator. It will be easier if you have the same denominator. Now, I want to make 16 on the denominator of this. For this, there is 2 already, so I need to multiply by 8. So for that, you need to divide and multiply by 8. Multiply by 8, divide by 8, so that you will have 16. Because you need to balance. You cannot just multiply the denominator. Okay, you need to multiply both numerator and denominator. What do you get? 25 over 16 minus 24 over 16 equals to d square. So what do you get? You write 16 in the denominator. 25 minus 24 is 1 equals to d square. Take the root. When you take the root, you need to take the root of the numerator. Root of the denominator. 4 equals to d. So d is 1/4. So what is the final answer? So the roots are x equals to negative 5/4 plus 1/4, comma, next one is negative 5/4 minus 1/4. Negative 5/4 plus 1/4 is, you write 4 there. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4, comma, again write 4. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. What is negative 4 over 4? Is negative 1. And if you divide top and bottom by 2, you will get negative 3 half. So these are the solution for that equation. So x equals to negative 1 and negative 3 half. Thank you guys.